Hi, Charles SirBookSage here, and this is my Wheel of Time Season 2 mid-season check-in. This TV show continues to be a very frustrating experience for me. Again, I'm someone who's read the entire Wheel of Time book series. I consider it one of the greatest fantasy stories ever written. Highly recommend you read it if you haven't. It is a big journey, absolutely, but it is a story that sticks its landing, and it's worth that entire journey. Now, all that said, the jury is still very much out as far as this TV show adaptation goes. And this is much more a reinterpretation, if you will, than any attempt at an actual adaptation of the books. Now, there are some things that they're actually doing a decent job at here in season 2. The production value has definitely taken a step up from the first season. I don't know if they've hired better people or if the production team just had that first season under their belt and now they're just much more comfortable like showing this world. Now, this season was filmed a couple of years ago. I think it was in 2021. So there clearly are some like pandemic restrictions that impact the sets that they're on. As great as the White Tower and Tar Valon look, there should be significantly more people there at that tower than we have in this TV show. This tower looks mostly empty, but again, that could just be budget, or like I said, this was in 2021, so it could still just be like restrictions on set in terms of how many people they are allowed and all that kind of stuff. So I'm still giving them the benefit of the doubt that those things are impacting just some of the production decisions on this show. Like, I think that's probably one of the reasons why the show just has Rand al'Thor just in the city of Cairhein for this first half of the show, rather than him going on this whole journey. But I'll get to Rand. I want to start off with the girls, Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elayne. We meet Elayne Trakand here in season 2. We get to see her in the second episode. They're actually doing a good job writing this character. Great casting in the role, but she's very well written. The Elayne Trakand on this TV show is probably resembles her book character the most out of any character on the show in this series so far. They're doing a good job writing her and presenting her that makes you think of Elayne in the books. So well done job there so far. Again, this is the first 4 episodes because this is just the first half of season 2, and she's in episodes 2, 3, and 4. I still have problems with how the show is writing Egwene and Nynaeve, but again, they're generally getting their recognizable book 2 plot. You recognize, okay, this is the girls in the White Tower in the early books. So they're generally doing a good job. I don't think they're writing the inner politics of the tower very well, but again, that's just quibbling stuff. Hopefully, as they get more seasons under their belt, they'll get better at kind of like taking these scenes in the book and kind of just adapting them for the screen a little better. Now, they are taking the time to like take out actual lines of dialogue that are in the books and have them in the show. They're not necessarily having the same person on the TV show say the line as the person who says the line in the books, but they're at least making that kind of effort. And now you could say that that's them making an effort because they want to give book readers things that the book readers are looking for. And you can also say, well, the fact that they can't have the actual character say it and they're taking that away from that other character and giving it to this character, you could say it's bad. And really, it all depends upon just how willing you are to look at an attempt at an adaptation of a story. There are things in this season that show us that they actually do know how to adapt a book into a TV show, which means that the parts that are significantly different from the books are deliberate choices. It's not just a lack of talent or skill or incompetence. Those are very specific, deliberate changes that the show feels they want to make for whatever reason. But I'll get to some of those in a little bit. But generally they're doing a good job. And Zoe Robbins, for me, continues to be my favorite part about this TV show. Again, I have some quibbles with how they're writing the character of Nynaeve, but she shines in this Nynaeve she's given to play. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the actress playing Elayne as she gets more and more screen time and we get more and more into her journey as a character, because I think very well casted so far, and she's doing a good job in the role as well. And Egwene, again, I have some quibbles with how Egwene's being written, but the actress is fine. I know where this character is going, so I'm hoping this actress can bring that to the character as we get deeper into her story. I hope so. I don't think that she can't, but I'm waiting to see her performance like take that next step, even though, again, still early. I think the second half of the season is going to be that this actress is like time to shine once the Shannarans have her. I mean, the Shan-Chan have her. I think the second half of the season is where we're really going to get to see that actress really like live in this role. So I'm looking forward to her performance in the second half once the Shan-Chan have their hands on her, which I'm assuming is happening in the very next episode, episode 5. I haven't watched episode 5 yet because I wanted to record my mid-season thoughts before I watch episode 5, because that kicks off the second half. So now, that said, let's talk about the boys. Perrin Abara, so far in the first half of this season, he's actually sort of doing what he was doing in the books. He's with Ingtar and Uno and the Shannara soldiers as they chase after Padan Fain and the Trollocs, trying to recover the Horn of Valar, and presumably Mat's dagger. I don't know yet in terms of where Mat and the dagger are as far as this TV show goes. I kind of suspect that the scene we got in season 1 where Moiraine sucks that sort of black poison out of him, I have the feeling that that was Mat being separated from the dagger in the TV show, and that wasn't just Moiraine kind of temporarily helping him like in the book. And I'll get to my reasons for why I believe that and just when I get to Mat's character. But for Perrin is traveling with Ingtar and the Shienarans. They're hunting for the horn, and what they're doing with Perrin is interesting because we finally have Elias in this TV show, who we should have had in season 1. They've replaced the character of Huron in book 2 with Elias instead. And Elias is another person with yellow eyes who can communicate with the wolves. He has the abilities that are beginning to manifest in Perrin in the TV show. So this show is having to like put in everything that he should have had in season 1. They're squeezing in here, plus his book 2 main plot. And I believe next episode, Avienda is going to show up. So we're going to get some form of book 3 Perrin stuff as well. So Perrin is having a busy season because it's book 1, book 2, and book 3 Perrin is happening here in this season 2. So he's finally getting a good script to work with, a good chunk of story to work with. Again, I was very frustrated that it took them all the way, I believe, till episode 4 for Elias and Perrin to finally have a conversation about what Perrin is experiencing. Didn't need to take that long to get around to it, but the show is doing its own thing. But again, Perrin's plot here is generally recognizable. You see some book 1 stuff, you see book 2 stuff, and next episode we're about to see some book 3 stuff. So not too bad. Where's Perrin's axe? He's supposed to have this sort of, was it a moon-shaped axe? Very significant to his character in these early books, him and that axe. So the fact that he still doesn't have his axe is very, very frustrating. Because if you haven't read these books, Perrin's sort of internal struggle is between the axe and the hammer. This is the choice Perrin is ultimately going to need to make for himself. One of the visions I think Min sees in the books with Perrin, I think, is an axe and a hammer. And for the show to not have him have his axe, they're taking away like the foundational struggle he's going through. The show's given him this fake struggle where by giving him a fake wife that he kills in season 1, episode 1, and that's been his internal dilemma in the show, instead of the axe and the hammer dilemma, violence or death or life, destroying or creating and building. And it's really frustrating to me that It's hard to tell this character's story when you take away the central conflict, which is what this show is still to this point done. So I'm hoping to give this guy an axe, because we kind of need that. It's a visual symbol of the struggle this man is going through. And you would think that a TV show would take the things that the book gives them visually and have them available, because there's a lot of internal things in the book that's hard to show on screen. So why they would discard a gift of, hey, the axe and the hammer, physical objects that are going to play a central role in this man's entire journey, why in the hell they haven't been doing that, I have no idea. But again, this is one of the frustrating things about this TV show, is these kinds of changes they felt the need to make. But in general, Perrin is, at least I can recognize Perrin is where he is in the books here on the TV show. And we'll see where this goes. Okay, I'm going to touch base briefly on Lan and Moiraine and Verin. Okay, love the actress playing Verin. I would not know that this was Verin if the TV show didn't tell me, because the character they've written that they're calling Verin is nothing at all like Verin in the books. She's not acting like Verin in any recognizable way through these first 4 episodes. Now, I know she's going to be arriving at the White Tower, so I don't know if when she's at the White Tower, she's going to present herself much more book Verin-esque. I haven't watched episode 5 to see if there's going to be a sort of character or at least presentation change to how she acts around other people. But in the first half of the season, again, Verin in name only. And I love the actress playing her. And I wish they would have just written this character like the books, because Verin is a really interesting character. She's this sort of she's very similar to Loial, the Ogier, in a sense of how she talks to people, because she's a brown Aja, so she spends her life in books, deep into the histories and lore, looking for clues about what has happened in the past that can help them in this time and day in their own age, especially with the dragon coming and the last battle coming. She's heavily invested in finding out as much information. But conversation-wise, her mind is always kind of split in two. She's buried in her lore and half listening, and then she'll make comments, and then it'll remind her of something, and then she'll go off on this tangent. And they have to kind of reel her back into the actual topic, similar to like Loial, the little bits of Loial when he's been able to actually talk and show his personality. Loial, you can see, is just still having this conversation that everyone else has moved on from. So Verin is similar to that in the books, and this Verin in the TV show, nothing recognizable. So again, I don't know why they've changed her character so significantly, but love the actress playing her. And I hope as we go further in, we get a little bit more book accurate Verin beginning to emerge. They might be sort of doing her character backwards in a sense, but we'll see. But just an odd change to the character. Now, Lan Mandragoran. Okay, if you have only been watching this show and you haven't read these books, you have yet to actually meet Lan from the books, because the Lan that they're writing in this TV show is, again, nothing at all like Lan in the books. I mean, this is not even recognizable as the same character in any real way. And this is one of my biggest disappointments in this TV show. Now, before season 1 aired, when I saw the initial casting for the main casting, the casting I was worried about the most was the casting of Lan. But I like the actor a lot. I think Daniel Perry, I'm not sure of his name off the top of my head. But he's doing a really good job with the role that they've written for him. And he could be a really good Lan. I think he's a little too small personally, but outside of that, he actually has the chops to play that character. They're just not writing that character. This Lan in this TV show, again, very little of anything at all resembles the Lan in the books. I mean, not even close. Now, they did take a very specific line of dialogue from Eye of the World, the book one, and they gave it to Lan, and for Lan to say to Nynaeve. So at least they did that. So, but his character outside of that moment has very little of it has resembled the book Lan. And they've completely changed his story. They've invented a plot for Moiraine for this part of this TV show, which then completely invents a plot for Lan. And I am not a fan of what they're choosing to do here. At all. I mean, the Waters are the most badass and feared warriors on that entire continent. And we've gotten to see how much actual Waters fighting have we actually seen in this show. Very, 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 very little. We're 12 episodes in, and if you take Waters fighting and put it all together, would you even have 2 minutes? I don't know if you'd even have that much screen time. And that's been one of the most disappointing things about this is the Waters have sat around basically gossiping. Picnicking and gossiping is what the Waters have been doing in this TV show. And it's just, it's like, what? I just don't know what the show is even trying to do with some of these characters. But again, there's a lot for Lan story-wise to come. And we'll see if they're going to do that at all. I don't know if they're going to do that. When they arrived at Faldara was it season 1? Was it episode 8? When they finally got to Faldara, or was it episode 7? I'm not sure when exactly it happened. But there were no shouts of Daishan, will the golden crane rise? There was none of that. And they said Daishan inside the castle when they were like introducing each other. But soldiers outside should have been calling out, Daishan, Daishan, will the golden crane, fly again? And none of that. And that worries me deeply about where they're going to take a Lan story in this TV show. Because that moment in book 1 is a significant moment early in the story. It's really, even though there's been some talk about Lan and who he is, that's the first moment you really see how everyone else in this world, in the Borderlands in particular, how important Lan is to this place and these people and this land, and how much they're looking and waiting for him to remember who he is and become who he is. And just completely absent in a TV show. Just, nah. And again, such an important character moment in the books for the other characters to see this reaction when these people see Lan, and just non-existent in this TV show. And that worries me, that taking that moment out, which would not have cost any extra screen time, because they were coming in, you should have heard those shouts and had that as they were coming into the castle. And the deliberate choice to take that moment away, those are the kinds of changes that really worry me about where the show is going with some of these characters. But I actually like the actor, and I feel bad that he's not being given book Lan to play, because I think he can actually do a good job of it. So now let's talk about Moiraine. Moiraine Sedai, her plot here, again at this point, is entirely made up. And I'm not surprised, because Moiraine is not very present at this part of the story. Because we're following Rand and Perrin on this sort of journey with the Shannarans hunting the Horn. And then we're following the girls at the White Tower as they begin their novice and accepted training. And Moiraine isn't with either group, so she's not a POV character here in this story at this point early on. So we just kind of hear about her briefly here and there, and that's about it. We see her when the Amyrlin seat comes to visit, and Rand is forced to finally meet the Amyrlin. Moiraine's in that room it's Moiraine, the Amyrlin, and Verin, the three of them meeting with Rand. But outside of a couple of moments like that, they're really not very present. But the TV show at the very beginning decided to make Moiraine Sedai far more the main character than anybody else. So they kind of have to create story for her. So they had her, lose her powers at the end of season 1, and then they're having her and Lan go on this emotional journey, which is what the showrunner seems to want to do with these characters far more than, their actual story in the books. And I'm pointing to my bookshelves like my books are there. My books are in storage in New York. So someday I'll have the money to get them and bring them all back down. But all my Wheel of Time books normally would be behind me on the bookshelves here. And I keep forgetting that they're not there. So they've invented this whole section. This is all entirely made up for Moiraine and Lan. And I'm not a fan of what they're doing personally at all. I'm interested to see what they're going to be doing with Moiraine in the second half, because she's come to the city of Cairhein, and we meet her sister. I think it's Lady Anvare, who I think is just mentioned briefly in the books, but doesn't have any scenes. So it's interesting to see her sister here and see that dynamic. So I'm curious as to where it's going to go in the second half of the season. There are so much smarter ways to have her doing things and be setting up plot things that are coming than what they're doing. They seem far more interested in Moiraine just pissing off Lan so much that so Lan will go away and go live his life or whatever than they are in advancing the plot significantly. I have no idea where they're going with her story. I know where her story is going. I'm just waiting for them to somehow find a way to fit in this red doorframe ter'angreal that has to show up before they all go to the threefold land, which is supposed to be next season. If next season's going to be book 3, they've got to fit in this one particular thing has to happen before they go there. I have no idea where they're going to squeeze that in. I can't see it happening this season, because we would have to have Rand, Mat, and Moiraine all be in the same place. And now Mat is on his way to Cairhein in the TV show for some bizarre reason, but so maybe they'll squeeze that in. I have no idea, but we'll see. I'm getting off on a tangent here. So again, Lan's plot entirely made up. Moiraine's plot entirely made up. I mentioned Mat, so let's talk about Mat next. I thought we were getting Mat's book 3 plot, the Dragon Reborn plot, because in book 3 is when we get our first Mat POV chapter. He wakes up in the White Tower, and he's finally been separated from the Shatter Logoth dagger for good. And in the books, it takes the Amyrlin Seed herself linking together with a group of Aes Sedai, and all of them combining their power, funneling their power through her to break this dagger's hold on him. That's how strong it is. And he wakes up after that's been done, and he's like really, really exhausted, and he just needs to constantly eat to try to regain the energy that was sapped away by the one power being used on him to such a significant degree to break that dagger's hold. And these scenes in the White Tower are really fun scenes with Mat. And there's a particular scene where he goes down to the water practice yard, grabs a quarterstaff, and just goes to town on 2 characters, Gawain Chokand, Elayne's brother, and Galad Damodred, their half-brother, who, and in the books, they've come to the White Tower when Elayne came, so they're training with the Waters. And these 2 characters are not in the TV show at this point. So this scene in book 3 with Mat going down to the practice yard with his quarterstaff, this show is just removed. So again, this is a very deliberate choice on the part of these people making this show to take one of the top 5 favorite Mat Cawthon scenes in the entire 14-book series and throw it away. So I am convinced there is somebody high up on this TV show, on this production, that hates this character, because Mat is easily the most mistreated character in this TV show. Rand is the most completely changed character from the book Rand, but Mat, I believe, is the most mistreated character in this show, in the things that they've deliberately changed and taken away from him in this TV series. There's no way, if these people making this show have read these books, there's no way they don't know this one particular scene is one of the top Mat Cawthon scenes in the entire book series. So again, a very deliberate choice to take away one of the main character's favorite book moments. But this is what this show is doing. Again, I'm convinced somebody on this production just does not like this character. So, and if that's the case, if there's one person with that kind of pull, then I hope they find a way to sideline that person and have them do something else, so the people making this show, the rest of them, can actually get around to showing Matt Cawthon. Because Matt Cawthon is one of the most entertaining and likable characters in the book series, and you would never know that from this TV show. Now, I thought Barney Harris did a great job with what they gave him to do, and Donald Finn is doing a great job with the little they've given him to do, because they've given Donald even less to do than they gave Barney Harris. But again, we'll see where this goes. I've heard that Matt isn't even in episode 5, so we'll see what they do. He has to get to Fallen by the end of the season so that a very specific, crucially important scene in the entire series can happen involving Matt. If they take that away from Matt, then but I don't think they're going to go that far. I really can't imagine that they would do that. If they do, then I will expect, if they take that scene, the film finale scene that's in the books with Matt, away from Matt and give it to somebody else, then I'm going to be convinced that we're not getting the Matt Cawthon in the books at all, and they're going to turn him into a dark friend and make him a villain. But we'll see. I have hope that they will just, what they're doing, whatever the hell they're doing with Matt, and then they'll just get him to Fallen for the season finale, and he'll finally get to be Matt for the first legitimate time. But we'll see. That's still many episodes away at this point. So, lastly, because this is already getting long, I want to talk about Rand al'Thor, and Rand al'Thor in the first half of season 2. Okay, now, in the book, The Great Hunt, the Shienaran set out after Padan Fain to try to recover the Horn of Valair, and Matt Cawthon is going with them because in the books, Matt is still bound to that dagger, and he'll die if he's away from that dagger for too long. And so Matt's the only one outside of Padan Fain who, for some reason, can hold and handle that dagger without it destroying him, and without the evil contained in it just spreading and consuming an entire town. So he has to go with the Ingtar and them. And Perrin is going with him because, they've grown up together. So Perrin, they're very loyal, these Emondfields kids. And so Perrin's going as well. And Rand doesn't know what the hell he wants to do. In the books, he's just single-minded. I'm the dragon reborn. I need to get the hell away from Aes Sedai. I need to get away from Moiraine. We have other Aes Sedai here. I need to get as far away from any Aes Sedai as I can get. And he's desperately trying to figure out a way to get the hell out of there. Something keeps getting in his way and not letting him leave. Part of that is his loyalty to his friends, because Nynaeve and Egwene are still there. They're all in Faldara. And he wants to spend as much time with them before they go off to the White Tower to begin their Aes Sedai training, because he might never see them again. So he's reluctant to leave as much as he wants to leave in the books, because this might be his last few days with some of his friends that he's grown up his entire life with. And he always thought he and Egwene, they were going to be their future together. And he's reluctant to let that go. So that's sort of keeping him there. And then he knows kind of Matt Perrin, the same thing with them. He doesn't know when they leave, if he'll ever see them again either. But he's kind of like caught between that loyalty and this desperation, like a trapped animal trying to get away, trying to get out of the trap. And then the Amyrlin Seed shows up, and he's forced to meet the Amyrlin. And that's a scene we haven't gotten yet in the TV show. But this is a scene that happens in the early part of Book 2, before he goes off on his Book 2 journey. And they meet and everything. And basically it's Siuan Sanche, the Amyrlin, Moiraine, and Verin. And they're manipulating Rand into deciding on his own to go with Perrin and Matt and Shienarans after the Horn. because they know, like, he's the dragon reborn. These three women in the room, they know he's the dragon, and they know he needs to start to begin to learn how to lead people. And if they nudge him out the door on that hunt, then because he's such a powerful Verin and he is the dragon, the pattern is going to just force situations that will cause him to need to begin to lead. So this is experience he desperately, desperately needs to be learning now, because they know that these prophecies of the dragon are going to, once they start being fulfilled, the rest of the continent will not be able to ignore that the actual real dragon has been reborn. And armies are going to flock to him, some to stand with him, some to stand against him. So he has to learn leadership skills, at least the beginnings of them, now. And they know if they get him out the door on that hunt, you know, the pattern will take care of itself and put him in those situations where he has no choice. And that's what book 2 is about for Rand. It's his journey after this horn and him beginning to learn how life with soldiers and how to talk with them and interact with them, and being put in situations where people are beginning to look to him to be the one to make the choices, because just the pattern and a bunch of different things just cause him to be the one people begin looking to. And he begins to learn how to lead, both with soldiers. He begins to learn, he's introduced to the Deus Damar, the great game of houses, when in these few chapters he's in the city of Cairhein in book 2. So it's really a critical like learning ground for Rand in book 2. And the reasons for why Rand goes to Cairhein in book 2 are very, very different. But let's just say it's Rand, Loial, Huron, separated from everybody else because of a portal stone. They meet Lady Selene in this mirror world. Rand finds another portal stone, brings them back. They leapfrogged ahead of everybody. They backtrack, steal the horn and the dagger from Padan Fain, and then they run to the city of Cairhein to figure Perrin and Ingtar and them are only a couple of days behind. We'll just hide here and keep an eye out, and when they show up, we'll all regroup and we'll figure out how to get the horn and the dagger back to Faldara. And that's why Rand goes to Cairhein. Now, the show made a very, very clunky attempt to introduce the concept of Deus Damar, the great game of houses, in episode 1, when Bael Doman comes to meet Moiraine, and he's got a broken Quendiar, and he's got this parchment. And he's just haggling price. And Moiraine, like, tricks him, basically. And then when he objects to it, she says, like, you know, the Aes Sedai invented the great game. Don't think you can play it better than me. And I remember watching that moment, and I'm like, he's not playing Deus Damar. He's a merchant haggling over the price of goods. There's no Deus Damar involved at all. But this show is like, oh, we got to fit in the concept of the great game. Let's just do it here in the most clunky, idiotic way that just, quite frankly, makes Moiraine like seem like a moron. If you're a book reader, it makes Moiraine seem dumb, because the guy's just haggling. He's a merchant. Merchants haggle over the price of everything. So a very weird, clunky way to try to just tell the audience that, hey, there's this great game thing, and then they don't follow up on it in when Rand's in Cairhein in the TV show. Now, I'm hoping maybe we'll see more of it in the second half, but we'll see. You have to understand the stark difference between Rand and Cairhein in the books and Rand and Cairhein in this TV show, because the only similarities between these two things is Rand is in the city of Cairhein. That is it. There isn't a single other moment where there's anything that resembles the show resembles the books at all. So now Rand comes into this city, right? He's well dressed at this point. He has this beautiful woman on his arm. He's traveling with an Ogier, and he has this man who's clearly his manservant, calling him Lord Rand. And this sends ripples throughout high society of the city. You can't not notice him. And then you see him, and he clearly is an Aielman. And he's just this puzzle. And you can't drop a bomb like that into Cairhein, because while the great game Deus Damar was invented at the White Tower, Cairhein is its playground, and everything there is part of the great game. and everyone, all these high society, high lords and ladies, they're all watching what each other are doing. And like, even like probably what you eat for lunch is noted by the other families. It's that intricate and that like pervasive. So you can't have this Aiel looking man stroll into town with a retinue that includes an ogier and then not have the whole place notice. So he goes to a tavern in the books that Tom Merrilin had told him if he's ever in Cairhein, go there. They get a room. He goes out into town, discovers Tom Merrilin's alive, and Tom gets caught back up into this stuff. And let's just say all sorts of craziness happens there. Dark friends and Trollocs try to kill him and Loial. The horn is stolen from them in the city. There's the king, because Cairhein has a king in the books, sends him an invitation. The king's bitterest rival, this powerful lord, sends him an invitation, and now Rand is screwed. Because if he accepts the king's invitation, this other lord will assume he's that lord's enemy and send assassins to try to kill him. If he accepts the lord's invitation, the king will assume he's the king's enemy, and the king will send assassins and try to kill him. If he accepts both invitations, both men will assume he's the other guy's man, and both will send assassins and try to kill him. And Huron, the tracker sniffer in the books, who's not in the show, is trying to explain the concept of Days Damar, and I think Tom is as well. So Rand's decision is, I'm going to go in the common room, sit down, have a meal, have the 2 envelopes, seals up, unbroken, and everyone can see I haven't opened either one, and maybe that'll buy us a day or two for Ingtar and Perrin and them to show up so we can get the hell out of this crazy place. And then the horn is stolen and taken from them, and Tom Merrilin finds out the rival lord is the one who supposedly took it. So Rand has no choice but to accept that guy's invitation, go to his palace, so they get trying to find the horn. And then let's just say bodies start dropping, craziness ensues, the king sends assassins. Tom Merrilin has this woman, Dina, I think, who's his protege and lover in the city, and the assassins kill her. And then mayhem breaks loose. Verin, Ingtar, Matt, and Perrin, and Verin Sedai join them on the road. They all show up in Cairhein, and somebody assassinates the king, and the city's just descending into chaos. They're trying to get the hell out of there. There's a way gate that Loial and Rand check out in the city. It's Machin is guarding it, so there's something so powerful that can command the Machin wind inside the way gates. And so they have to flee the city and hope they can reach this Ogier steading, where there's safety from the Dark Lord's minions, and there's another way gate there. So that's what happens when Rand comes to Cairhein. He causes so much mayhem and so much craziness, being a powerful Verin, just disrupting the Daes Daemar game to where they topple a city. Lords start dying, a king is killed, and the city ultimately descends into a civil war. So that's the repercussions of Rand al'Thor going to Cairhein in the book. Now let's talk about the TV show. Rand al'Thor has been in Cairhein in the TV show for many months. He's living in the Foregate part of town, which is basically this sort of very crowded, it's kind of like the slum of the city of Cairhein at this point. It's overcrowded because there's a lot of refugees as more and more Trollocs are coming out of the Blight and causing a lot of problems. And though not a perfect analogy, the Foregate is to Cairhein as Fleabottom is to King's Landing in Game of Thrones, just to kind of put it into some perspective, though not an exact analogy. So now, it is not possible for Rand al'Thor, again, a very powerful Ta'veren, and I'm going to get to the issue of Ta'veren in this TV show in a moment, to be living in the Foregate for months, many, many months, and not disrupt that place just because of how powerful the pattern is pulling and swirling around him. So one of the things that's happening in these early books is the Dark One's seals on the Dark One's prison are weakening. You have these sort of bubbles of evil are just like bursting into existence. And when they pop up, just insane things happen. Like crazy things happen for a few minutes until the bubble bursts completely, and then everything kind of goes back to normal. So there is no way Rand would be living in the Foregate for months on end without those bubbles kind of bursting up and causing all sorts of crazy stuff to be happening in that part of town. And just being such a powerful Verin. He should be disrupting lives just without anyone knowing why or how they're deciding to do the things they're doing. And there is not a trace of that so far in this first half of the season. Not a trace. Nothing whatsoever. He's just there. He might as well just be some guy named Tom. Hey, Tom, how you doing, Fred? Good Tuesday, isn't it? Yes, let's go about my day. Like, he might as well be anybody. There's no significance to his presence there. And again, an Aielman living in the Foregate for months on end, no matter how much he's trying to not look like an Aielman, but the show already established he very clearly looks like an Aielman when he went to see Errol, so he can't hide how he looks. Now, 20 years earlier, the Aiel crossed the spine of the world and sacked the city of Cairhein, pretty much burned most of it to the ground, going after their king, King Lan and Moiraine, because I think he cut down this great tree that was this huge gift. So they basically came and waged war on this continent, hunting this king, and they only turned back because they finally were able to kill him, and right outside the walls of the White Tower, of Tarvalon itself. And the whole rest of the world says, we beat the Aiel and they ran away. But no, they only left because they finally killed Lan and Moiraine. And so an Aielman strolling around in Cairhein for months at a time is not going to go unnoticed, and it's not going to go unchallenged. And this TV show just, again, imagine going out of your way to remind the audience, hey, he looks just like an Aielman. It's unmistakable, and then having no repercussions to him living in the Foregate for months at a time and nobody seeming to suddenly notice. Like, why is Errol the only one who notices this? Now, I could see maybe the younger people, they know what an Aielman looks like from description, but they never saw one. But clearly, most of that city would see an Aielman and wonder, what the hell is an Aielman doing in the Foregate? But this show, it matters in a moment, in a scene, and then doesn't matter ever again. And it'll matter later when they need it for 2 seconds, and then they'll discard it. So it won't have any meaning any other time it should. They did the same exact thing in season 1 when Rand meets Loial, and Loial's like, oh, you're an Aielman. And an Aielman who doesn't act like an Aielman, wants to pretend he's not an Aielman. And then they never mentioned it again in season 1, if you recall. It never came up again. And I'm wondering, is it ever going to come up again in season 2? Or was that the one kind of like, here, book readers, here's a little crumb. You know what I mean? So, like, why would you go out of your way to remind people that Rand is unmistakably looks Aiel and then not have it mean anything at any other moment other than that this one moment someone notices? This is just bad storytelling on the show's part. Okay, anyway, so here's what Rand is doing in the books. He's living in the Foregate, renting a room from Lady Selene, who in the books is someone he found in this mirror dimension and was trying desperately to get her claws into him and coming on to him. But Rand in the books is a good kid. He's good-natured. He's got a good heart. Like I said, he protects women, and he would never, ever give in to Selene's advances in the book because he would feel he would be dishonoring her if he did. Rand in the TV show, not only is Selene his landlord, because she owns this tavern in the Foregate for some bizarre reason, but Rand and Selene are humping the brains out every night. So he's in an active, very sexually active relationship where they get it on all the time. And they imply that some of the sex is a bit rough because Rand doesn't have any problem like just choking a woman in this TV show, even though that's something Rand would never do in the books. And Rand like gets himself into significant trouble in the books because he just, his inability to harm a woman, even a woman trying to kill him, there's this thing about his personality where that's a line he refuses to cross. And it causes him problems in the books because of that. But this Rand in the TV show is a completely different character. Nothing at all recognizable about Rand in the books. He's lives in the foregate, humps Elayne's brains out every night, and he's working during the day as an orderly at a sanitarium in the better part of town. Instead of being on the great hunt, learning how to interact with soldiers, learning how to lead, beginning to learn how to interact with high ladies and high lords, beginning to learn the skills that he desperately needs to learn before he begins to step out into the world as the Dragon Reborn. Nope, he's hanging out, working as an orderly, and then humping his brains out at night. So doing as little as possible. You learn pretty quickly that he's there as an orderly because there's a different orderly whose job is the job he wants there. This orderly takes care of the patients that have access to this garden. And they make it obvious that Rand wants in that garden for some reason. So now, you'd think the show would begin to show what it means when someone's a Verin. Okay? Season 1, Episode 1, right in the first 5-10 minutes, Moiraine is talking about there's multiple Verin in the Two Rivers. One of them's probably the dragon. You'd think that this TV show would ever at some point actually show what the hell that means. And Rand here in the foregate for this significant amount of time wants to get in that garden. The pattern, being a powerful Verin, the pattern is going to force something to happen where he'll naturally get an opportunity to get in there. But not in this TV show. Nope. Rand follows the other orderly who they set up as a prick. So what's going to happen to him? You're like, he deserved that. Kind of, again, simple, like amateur storytelling. Rand follows that guy, because that guy also lives in the foregate, into a back alley and basically pretty much leaves him dying in the alley. I don't know if he died. I think he survived, but Rand practically almost kills him. So again, this is not Rand al'Thor from the books in any legitimate way. And then Rand gets his job. And then he goes into the garden and you realize, okay, Logain Ablar, the false dragon, is there. That's why Rand came here. He wants to talk to Logain, and he wants Logain to train him how to wield the One Power. Now, book readers watching this, I know you just said, what the fuck? Yes, yes, this is where the show is going. Okay, for those of you only watching the TV show, only a person who can wield the One Power can train another person how to wield the One Power. Logain was gentled in Season 1, which means Logain can no longer wield the One Power. He can have an intellectual conversation with Rand about what it was like, but he cannot train Rand. It's not possible. Now, I am fine with Rand not knowing this. Perfectly acceptable. This isn't something that Rand might not know, though I believe Moiraine had probably in the books had already told Rand that he needs someone who can touch the male side of the One Power, Sidon, which the show still has yet to explain Sidon and Sidar to its audience. So that's necessary. But TV show Rand, I don't know if he has any idea about that, so I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he's just a dumbass and doesn't know. Logain can't teach him. Now, Logain asks to get me this special bottle of wine and we'll talk. So then this is where we get to, I think, the show's attempt at showing Deus Damar. This is the show's attempt. Now, if you've read the books, here's the show's attempt. Rand goes back to Selene, says, I need this bottle of wine. Don't ask, I just need it. Selene takes him to a high society party. And he's there. And he's chatting. He doesn't want to be there, all this stuff, which is fine. Rand is not comfortable in that atmosphere regardless. He's given an invitation by somebody. And he kind of goes over to this corner to kind of sulk and pout and just wait for Selene to get this wine. And while he's over there on the wall, this noble lady comes over to talk to him. And as soon as you see the actress, I figured, okay, she's going to be a recurring character this season. I can't remember the actress's name, but I'm pretty sure she's the one who played Captain Adelaide in Doctor Who's The Water of Mars. It turns out we meet her again later, and this is Lady Anne Vere, Tamadred. This is Moiraine's sister, and which we learn when Moiraine shows up in Cairhein. She's talking to him, just kind of, feeling him out. She wants to know what he's going to do with the invitation. And, this is apparently the show's attempt to show, how the lords and ladies kind of playing their game. So, this scene lasts maybe a minute, or if it was even that long. And this is the part that just frustrates me about this show as well. Rand, I think, sees Celene's gotten the bottle. So Rand takes the invitation and throws it in the garbage right there in the room in front of everybody. Goes to Selene, grabs the bottle, and dusts her, leaves her at the party. Okay, now, I'm hoping that this show is going to have repercussions for Rand throwing that invitation in the garbage in that room in front of high society. Because if that was the books, assassins would be at that kid's door trying to stick a knife in him while he's sleeping later that night. So I'm hoping this show takes even 15 seconds to have an assassin leap out of a shadow to try to kill him as a result. Because if they're not going to show any repercussions for that, then this was just the show going, oh yeah, there's Damar, ha ha ha. Yeah, we don't care about that. So, but we'll see. Again, there's 4 episodes to go in the season. I'm assuming Rand's going to be in Cairhein still for the next 3, because I know the actress playing Lady Anvare is in the cast in IMDb for the next 3 episodes, so we'll see. But that was just the worst possible, lamest, most clunkiest attempt to show what I think they were trying to show in this TV show. So he gets to Logain, gives him the bottle. Logain has a cup. He opens the stopper, starts pouring the wine, and just lets it pour all over the place. And he starts maniacally laughing. And Rand realizes just how crazy Logain is. But Rand's like, I want you to train me, kind of thing. He goes back to Selene, who attacks him. Back to their home. Selene's there, and she attacks him. And then Rand grabs her by the throat. Again, it's a completely different Rand in this TV show than in the books. And basically throws her down. They're going to have sex. They quickly jump to later that night. Rand wakes up, and the one power is like out of control, and he's burning the place down. And then they have to run out, and he burns the place he's been staying at to the ground. And then the next time we see him is the next day, and he's like shoveling, trying to help clean up. And Selene takes him to, like, they're outside the city, up on this hill, beautiful vista. She's trying to talk to him. Selene is just basically getting her claws into him more and more. And she's like up against his chest and like, don't worry, I'll comfort you. I'll help take care of you. All that kind of stuff. And then it switches to at night. He wakes up. He's there sleeping on the ground. There's a little campfire. Selene is asleep next to him. And he gets up and then looks around, and there's a cottage. There's a freaking cottage like 20 feet away. So why in the hell they're sleeping outside on the ground when there's a cottage, obviously her cottage, right there? It's just, this is like, and then you realize why, because, all of a sudden there's a fade. And if they were inside, then they'd have to have Rand wake up and then come outside and then yes. So they had them sleep outside, what they would never do if they had a cottage right there, just so they can have this scene logistically easier. And that's the stuff that frustrates me when I see, like, not even an adaptation, just a TV show or a movie where, hey, let's have this character do this thing that they wouldn't do because it just makes it easier for this thing to happen, kind of thing. And that just annoys me as someone who enjoys story. But again, a minor quibble. So the Fade attacks, got his sword. Rand's got his sword out. Rand has his sword in his hand, finally. The first time in season 2, he's got his sword. Rand gets disarmed by the Fade in 2 seconds. So, hey, here's the show reminding you Rand is completely useless with a Heron Mark blade. Now, Rand is going to be having a sword fight with High Lord Torok in the season finale. Unless they're throwing that whole scene out in the books too. But how the hell Rand is supposed to even survive 2 seconds against Torok, who is an actual highly skilled blade master, when the show is actually going out of its way to show you Rand is the most useless person with a sword in this entire story here in the show. Again, why do you remind us how sucky Rand is with this blade? Again, they've shown Nynaeve training with a sword in this TV show more than they've shown Rand. Just to put it in perspective. The changes the show is making to both characters. Selene is awake. Rand jumps in front of Selene to protect her and wields the one power and destroys the Fade. And then he realizes Selene has seen him channel because, and you might be book readers are going, well, wait, what the fuck? And I'm like, yes. This show has zero interest in the rules of the one power. Now, you're already in trouble when you have a TV show that's an adaptation of a books, and that those books have a magic system that has some rules. And you're in trouble when the show says, rules, we don't need no stinking rules. We'll just use the one power however the hell we want, whenever we want it, to do whatever the hell we want. So everyone can see the weaves of the one power when someone's channeling. That's not. Yeah, everyone can see it. Everyone can feel it. There doesn't, even though the showrunner has said Sidon and Sidar exist in this TV show, we have yet to see it exhibited. So Selene is acting afraid of him at first, and then she's like, no, it's okay. She takes him in the cottage, puts him on the bed, mounts on top of him, and then reveals that she can channel as well. And then Rand is kind of freaked out, but they're, again, about to get it on, both channeling, I suppose, whatever. And then all of a sudden a sword is driven through her, and then we see Moiraine. She apparently had grabbed the Heron-marked blade and stabs Selene through the back with it, and then comes up with its knife and slices Selene's throat and dumps the body on the ground. And Rand attacks her, throws her against the wall with one power, and then runs over, and he's like choking Moiraine out. Again, this is the Rand al'Thor in this TV show that is nothing whatsoever even remotely resembling Rand in the books. And Moiraine is like, that is the daughter of the night. That is Lanfear. She's the most dangerous of the Forsaken. We need to run. And then Rand kind of comes to his senses, and then they run out into the night. And then the last shot is, Selene is lying there, her eyes open, dead. And then she blinks, and you see the power starting to heal the cut on the throat. And then end scene. And that's how the episode ends. And that's the end of the first half of season 2. To wrap all this up, because I did not expect this to be an hour long at all, watching the White Tower scenes with Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elayne show us that this show, these people making this show, can actually do an adaptation of these books if they wanted to. Because they're showing us over here that, hey, yes, we can actually do this, but yeah, we have no interest in doing that, at least not with the main character of the TV show. So, not only is Rand's plot completely unrecognizable from his book plot at this point, Rand as a character in this TV show is completely unrecognizable from Rand as a character in the books. Now, this is going to surprise you because season 3 is supposed to be book 4, The Shadow Rising. And if it is indeed just going to be book 4 and we're going to get a pretty good adaptation of book 4, this show does have an opportunity to correct course with next season, because they'll have to get each of these characters to where they need to be for the events of book 4 to play out next season. So who Matt sort of starts to become and the journey Matt goes on through the entire rest of the book series really properly begins in book 4. When he goes through that red door frame, that ter'angreal. That's where Matt Cawthon that you get for the whole rest of the series. Book series begins. So as long as we get that red door frame and we get Matt going through it, Rand going through it, Moiraine going through it, and we get that early on, and then we get the Shadow Rising play out where Rand goes into the Threefold Land and goes to Rudian and we get the whole Kara Karn. If season 3 is that story, then this series will have the opportunity, the ability to course correct and get itself much more in line with the actual story in the books. So now the showrunner could have said that's what he's going to do, just to try to keep as many book readers watching as possible to see if that happens next season. And it's not a good place to be in as a fan of a story when I'm at the point where I hope they don't fuck up the second half of season 2 as much as they fucked up the first half, so that we can get to a season 3 that actually looks like the story in the books. But that's where I am at as a book reader watching this show. Season 3 is going to be the big, the big tell for whether or not there's any chance we're going to see anything even resembling where this story ultimately leads for this show. I'm looking forward to the season finale, to be honest, because I don't know what's going to happen in these next 3 episodes, 5, 6, and 7. You know, it's like, I don't know how much of it's just going to be made up or how much of it's going to be book. But this finale will be, again, will the horn be blown and blown by who it needs to be blown by? And will this particular battle in the sky that happens in the books happen? If they land the finale of the book in the season finale, then, you know, that'll give me more hope for season 3 actually looking like book 4. But again, we'll see. Right now, so much of this story in this TV show is a complete mess because of what's very obvious at this point, not incompetent so much as deliberate changes. Because again, they're doing Nynaeve, Egwene, and Elayne generally recognizable, and they're doing Mat, Lan, Moiraine, and Rand completely unrecognizable. So, and again, showing that that's a deliberate choice. So we'll see if there's any valid payoff to making these significant changes to these characters that they're making. Don't have high hopes, but we'll see. And with that, I have talked way too long. Thank you to everyone who has stuck this far. Do like, subscribe. I'm so close to 2,000 subscribers. Hopefully you'll join in. I'm doing Sunday live streams where I am doing a deep dive into each episode. So this coming Sunday, I'll be doing a deep dive into episode 5. I've been doing those at Sunday at 3 p.m., but I think I'm going to move this Sundays to either 7 or 8 p.m. So look for, that's going to be posted early enough so you can click the notify me thing. Keep an eye out for that. And I look to see you in my live chat Sunday evening when I go do a deep dive that's probably going to be at least as long as this about episode 5. Thank you for watching. Links to me everywhere else down below. Happy reading, happy viewing.